Introducing Maria Baltazar from the Collection and Asset Recovery Department. Maria is the head of that department at Toyota Financial Services Philippines Corporation. Maria comes with more than 2 decades of experience in the banking and financing industry. She was highly involved in various Kaizen projects of TFS PH and instrumental in the setup of various cash management facilities to ensure that payment and disbursement channels are available to Toyota clients and dealers nationwide. Maria takes pride in being a Kaizen mentor of TFS PH from 2014 to the present, where she achieved various awards. Next, we have Jitartha, who is the regional head for financial services in Infosys, and he leads the financial services team in Southeast Asia for Infosys. He brings significant experience in driving innovation at the intersection of business and technology across various markets. And finally, but by no means least, Chetan Chavan, who is the regional sales manager for EdgeVerve. Chetan is an astute leader with over 17 years of experiences in IT industries. He has helped customers in the financial services industry across the Asia Pacific to improve and automate business processes, leveraging software products and platforms. Welcome all. So first of all, let's kick off with the first question to the panelists. And Jitartha, if I may start by asking you, what are some of the key trends that are likely to continue to shape the debt collections industry as we continue to travel through 2023?
Right. Well, thanks, Brian, for having me today. See, I think I would start from a very different perspective first, which is again from a market, how it's shaping up, linking to the trend. As you all know, unlike a few years back, today there's a very different level of stress in the financial systems globally, links to interest rates hikes, supply chain issues heavily impacting the inflation, and again there's a reduction in the disposable income across board. Now all this links back to the consumer debts, and hence debt collection has become a big area of focus for FIs. Now additionally, we see a major behavioral change also from a consumer perspective. Pre-COVID was very different. Post-COVID, people prefers to have digital channels as an engagement, expects more personalized debt repayment kind of scenarios. Keeping all this in view, I believe there are 3 trends which are shaping up. One, access to new digital channels. We've all seen how the branch footfall has gone down post-COVID across globally. And consumers like us prefers more and more online channels. Now, I've seen cases where the new generation guys, they prefer to have apps which also put call screening to block inbound calls many a times from unknown callers, right, with the number of frauds happening. Now, imagine if a client has, if a FI has a strategy only to call as the strategy to collect debts, I'm sure they will go through a different kind of challenge. Now, it is very important that you invest into new digital channels at the end of the day. Automation, again, that's one of the key themes which I believe will play a major role. In fact, I was with a client a couple of days back. They have 3 collection systems, right? All 3 siloed. Now, the challenge which happens is you don't have a single customer view. If you're not automating or you're not bringing one standardized platform, there would be challenge which will come in. Then the third, which I believe which would become more and more prominent and critical, is the personalization, right? The personalization aspect has taken it a very different level when we sell, but when you have to collect, I don't believe that's getting into more and more in the market now. With AI taking a front phase in many of these conversations, and today we will have a lot of conversations on AI. I think the expectation is how do you use AI to do standard, instead of having a standardized debt repayment plans, you make a more customized view. How do you not reach out to me if I'm based on my history, I'm a better customer than another person, and you don't treat me at the same level, right? How can AI be of more use from a personalization perspective? I think this 3 would shape up more and more, right?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Jitartha. Some very insightful comments and thoughts on that. Would any of the other presenters like to offer anything on that, or are we all good to move on to the next question?
Good.
Fantastic. So, if I may ask, Chetan, how, in your opinion, is the debt collection industry different now than it was, say, 3 years ago because of those technology advancements?
Sure. Brian, I think I've been a little fortunate. I've been into this industry for last 15 plus years, and actually I had more on the technology side, not on the business side, but and I've got opportunities to meet a lot of collections heads, risk heads, and I've seen the industry evolve. Couple of years back, certainly not 3 years back, couple of years back, I've seen organizations used to take a dump of Excel sheet of all delinquent accounts, as we call as D+1 accounts in the industry, and those Excel sheets were distributed within the organization, and then the calling used to happen, or the follow-up used to happen. It was a very messed up situation. It was quite difficult in those days to consolidate data, create reports, and there used to be not a very organized way of functioning. Later, workflow-based collections platform evolved, where they could slice and dice the portfolio. They could allocate the accounts to each other, and that became a little more of a norm. I think that's like a mandatory system that any finance company or a bank should have, and I think that's quite normalized now. But the world has evolved. Banks or financial institutes are demanding more now. When you go and meet them and say, look, I have a basic workflow capability in place and I'm able to do it, but I got to go plus. Is there a way you can tell me who will default? Can I know who will default? If I know who will default, can I proactively arrest that default? If I can do that, what is the more relevant way of doing it? What kind of communications you should do? How you can really, kind of save the or stay away from number of bad loans that are evolving. So I have seen that trend changing. People are moving towards AI, doing more, giving more importance to data. More the matured organization, more the number of accounts. I think this makes a lot of sense. That's more on the software side. But if you see, the need of field force is also equally important, which means once you have a field collector on the ground, how can you efficiently use it? First, I remember those days when people used to be given a stat card with account information, and you got to go in the field, talk to the person, record the information, and the information will only come back in the night or the next day of what collections. There's not real-time activity. Now it's quite normal to have a mobile handheld collections where centrally you can send a feed to a respective person of what collections he needs to do. So it's more digital. It goes to a level where you can integrate this to your Google Map. So when he starts his day, Google Map will tell him, looking at the addresses in the list that he has, what is the best way to go, how he can efficiently traverse across the city and get his collections done, how much he's able to record his PTPs. It doesn't stop there. Now I've seen people actually can take photo of a respective asset. For example, if it's an auto loan, you can go and take a photo of the asset, of what shape it is into, and this data is real time flowing back. So I've seen this industry evolve from really basics of Excel sheet to more AI data driven kind of solutions. So yes, most of these people are now digital focused. They are very focused on data, customer analytics, collections analytics, and things will continue to progress is what I see.
Fantastic. Thank you for that insight, Chetan. I'm sure that's a conversation and what people are seeing globally within that space. Cecile, coming over to you, and a very specific question as a leader within an enterprise business in this space. What challenges do you see as a leader in the space that leaders in the debt collection industry are facing today?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Actually, I handled the collection department right after the pandemic. So really, in terms of the challenge to this collection or debt collection challenge is really one big deal for somebody who has just been there in the collection industry. One very challenging part would be the lack of updated contact information of the customer. Of course, not being able to have the most up-to-date, the accurate contact information of the customer. How do we get successful recoveries of those vehicles or units or those debts if we cannot contact the customer? So that is one. And I think the root cause for that would be lack of accurate information verification and updated records. So that's one big factor. Second, leaders in the industry now needs to focus on technology and solutions that will establish the information authentication. It's the ability to access records, like for example, government agencies, like the credit bureaus, that would allow us to update our records, and also the lack of an effective collection or efficient collection system that will allow the company to understand the customer's behavior and their diverse needs and their preferences. And in fact, even up to this time, some lending companies are still following the traditional collection where one size fits all. And it's not true at this time, because we need to be to understand each of our borrowers, and understanding that they have their different backgrounds, they have their preferences, they have their different repayment abilities. So that's one. And then so focus of the banks now, I think, would be how do we identify the vulnerable borrowers and look for this platform that can design some personalized collection strategy and allow capture of real-time customer data to be able to build predictive and prescriptive analytics.
Cecile, thank you very much. Very insightful, and I'm sure a lot of your peers will have found that very interesting as well. And we'll no doubt seek to further that conversation with you at some stage. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we now have the first interactive part of the day. We have our first poll, which is going to be launching right now. And this poll looks at which of the challenges that you will see on screen do you think the debt collection industry is grappling with. Please select the one which is most appropriate for you, and then let's see what the results are. So once again, questions, the answers can be reduced productivity for agents, lack of smart insights to support customer engagement, difficulty in accessing the most valuable information, all of the above. Okay, so it'll be open for a little bit more. A bit slow this afternoon in people responding. We're getting there. And there are two clear winners in this, as you will see very shortly. A third one's joined. Another 20 seconds and then we have to move on. Okay, right, I'm going to close this first poll and let's see the results. As you can see, we have all of the above option is 43%, 29% on option 3, difficulty in accessing the most valuable information, and 29% lack of smart insights. Reduced productivity for agents has a 0% response, so doesn't appear to be an issue for any of those guys. So let's move on with the next question. Before we do so, any thoughts on those outcomes on responses on the first polls?
Yeah, I think it's it's quite interesting, and I think the responses itself is pointing towards how important AI is in collections, clearly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, let's see how the polls progress as we move forward. Sure. So, Cecilia, again, just continuing the conversation piece a little, how do you see companies today innovating, and what role does the customer service and team or department or company play, or regulatory compliance play within that innovating role?
Yeah. Lending companies are really focusing on innovation. You are definitely right there. And we need to sustain and maintain our good collection performance given all these challenges, which I've also mentioned. So being able to reach to more customers with fewer agents, but using digital and the customer-centric collection solution is, I think, an integral part of the solution. Currently here in the Philippines, our central bank has also been focusing on a lot of transition to digital payments and digital financial system. And with regard to these initiatives, actually the recent ones, which I think would be very helpful for lending institutions such as banks and financial institutions would be the national SIM card registration, which I believe would avoid the proliferation of the cyber criminals and scammers. And then we'll be having also the Philippine ID system, which, as I mentioned, it's very difficult to gather data and getting the most updated data of all our customers. So having a Philippine ID system where we can also access and develop some better verification process would be a great help for lending institutions. And of course, we have existing access to credit bureaus as well, which will allow us to gain insights on how our customers performing or how borrowers are also performing outside the other lending institutions. In terms of the role of the customer service and the regulation, moving to digital is a great challenge because, of course, it will allow proliferation of very high number of possible fraud. So having the right customer identification and verification process which will be facilitated by the customer service, and at the same time the control and monitoring departments, which would facilitate or level up their standards so that the control on this fraud and cyber attackers will really be there. So in terms of the innovation part, I think really the focus of companies now is really moving over highly powered by AI and machine learning in terms of debt collection.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cecilia. That's really insightful commentary. Now, if we can move on to the next question. Gita, getting back to yourself again. With the buzz that Gen AI is making around just about every industry, what role do you see AI playing in there, and what kind of investments do you see companies looking at in this space?
Right, and I think it's a nice segue from how Ma'am was speaking and moving to closing with the AI side of it. And I think the AI is coming as more and more into not only on the conversation perspective, but also actually implementing the use cases to help businesses, especially collection and other aspects. So though my view is, Brian, though everyone is talking about Gen AI today, right? Again, thanks to OpenAI, many organizations like us have actually have been investing into AI years back, right? We have invested quite years back. In fact, many do not even know one specific interesting fact that Infosys had invested in OpenAI way back in 2015. Now, why the jazz is there, I mean, we have been doing some of these things years back. This year, we have launched Infosys Topaz, which is an AI-first set of services, solutions, and platforms using GenAI technologies. Now, it helps businesses accelerate growth, build connected ecosystem, and unlock efficiencies at scale. In fact, we're seeing huge demand globally in the same, I mean, across different verticals. I mean, in fact, some of the recently announced the wins and deals which we have done, you would see AI as a core theme in most of them, right? I believe our investment on Topaz kind of initiative would be followed by the industry. A lot of other SIs or even the product principals will keep following up on those lines. In fact, we see a lot of such things being announced recently. If I take from a debt collection standpoint, in fact, we have multiple clients which have already adopted the AI-based collection platform which we have, I mean, CollectEdge to the actual name. And this has helped them not only through reduced delinquency rates and charges, but also enhance customers, improve operational efficiencies. I believe some of this platform-based investments which we have done, bringing AI on the loop, will help businesses more and more. And again, the investments will continue from some of us on those lines.
Thank you, Yatha. Very apropos, and as you say, building nicely on what Cecile was covering in her presentation. So, Chetan, not to put any pressure on you at all, but to continue that conversational piece. What are some of the AI solutions that you have seen companies deploy to enhance that customer experience?
Sure, good. So look, I think this word customer experience determines the reputation of company. So I think it is non-negotiable aspect for any organization. You know, if something goes wrong, and I was just reading one of the articles where it was predominantly focusing on it was basically how many complaints are registered into Consumer Financial Protection Bureau of a certain country. Around 30% of calls or the complaints were related to debt collections. Now you see that's where your negative sentiment starts. So like I said, it's a non-negotiable aspect. And then let's marry it with how AI can really help. I'll put some examples here and I'll try and make it very simple. Imagine that, Brian, you yourself are a 10 years old customer for a certain bank on a credit card. And once for a reason, you genuinely forget to make your payment. If you, and in a very, I just mentioned about traditional systems, right? As soon as you miss the payment, the next day you get a phone call saying, Brian, pay the money. Now, you always feel, I've been with them for 10, 15 years, and this one mistake happens and they've been calling me. Now, that's where your customer experience can be handled a little better. If you use AI can do a proper prediction of a certain person who will default. Basis looking at his behavioral pattern, that's where AI will kick in and tell you what approach you need to tell. Brian is certainly not a customer you should be making a call and be aggressive on the call to pay. Send him a soft SMS. He's genuinely forgotten. Send a soft SMS. Okay, but there are a lot of people who are going to be by choice they are defaulter. They should not be getting SMSs. They should be getting calls and they should be getting field visits directly. And that's where AI plays a very significant role in predicting high risk, low risk customers. It intelligently tells you what action you need to take, whether it's call, SMS, email, field visit, or whatever it is, or even repossession of asset. And that's where, once you marry these two properly, your customer experience is handled very well. And I think that plays a significant role with AI. Okay, and I think we have been successful doing that with a couple of customers in the region. Now, if I'll just go back to the last poll, someone said they don't have a proper view of customers' data. That's pretty true. I've been dealing with a lot of banks in the region, and I think I'll just tell what I will just say. Even Gitar some time back said they had 3 collection systems, correct? And this is how banks have evolved. They have multiple siloed systems with different technologies, and they really need to take a swirl chair approach where they need to log in into multiple systems to solve a collections case, and that's reality at some of the organizations. Now, it certainly helps, it certainly destroys the customer experience because the call engagement time is very high. And that's where, we have seen, or we are even deploying a single view of customer, where we have a platform which will sit on top of all your 5, 10, 20 different systems, consolidates the relevant information and puts it on the screen for the telecaller when he makes a call. Now he has a complete customer 360-degree view. The AI power will tell him whether it's a high risk customer, low risk customer, his propensity to pay, is what kind of propensity to pay he has. Once you have a clear direction on where the customer is, what kind of customer you're dealing with, the guy can change his tone, his pitch when he's making communication with the defaulter. Okay, so that's the reason this 360-degree view, a far better looking screen, graphical analysis is becoming very important. Under this all comes under AI umbrella. That's why I thought of mentioning this. Githarth also spoke about generative AI. We have been doing a lot of investments into generative AI, and I'll try and make it very simple of how we are getting Gen AI into collections business. And Mamsel, you have been into the industry, and I'm sure you would also appreciate that. Look, Gen AI is, as Githarth mentioned, it's open AI, it's conversational AI, and all of that. Look, typical cases where we found it makes a lot of sense is traditional systems are sending automatic mailers for them to respond, to pay the money. There have been instances where people respond back to the email, okay? And this conversation is not required to be done by humans anymore. Looking of what he is written, the generative AI will generate the text and respond back. At times, say for example, the person's outstanding is say $10,000. I'm just taking hypothetical number. And he responds, we have the 360-degree view, collects the data and finds what is his financial status? Is he really going through hardship? If he's going through hardship, generative AI with combination of multiple systems can generate a different payment plan for that particular installment, and it can create a plan that suits both the organizations. Now, this is where generative AI is playing a very big, very, very big role. Second, every account, if there is a history of 1 year, 2 year of communication, what all is happening, Gen AI is going and taking all that information and putting as a consolidated summary view on the telecaller screen in few seconds. That tells him overall behavioral pattern of the customer, and it immediately helps the person or the telecaller who's communicating with the end defaulter to take, he knows what kind of person he's dealing with, so he can change his tone, he can change his strategy in dealing with him. What is the outcome you are expecting? Early collections. This all can be achieved using generative AI. And I gave some industry examples that will make sense to the people joining here.
Fantastic. So thank you very much for that. So someone has snuck in a question which is going to put you a little bit on the spot, and if you can quickly sort of ask all of them before we move on to the next interactive poll. And this is, I think, quite a good question coming in from Nikal. Can organizations today, right now, rely completely on AI to make decisions?
Okay, completely on AI to make decisions. Okay, so look, I think Githarth and ma'am, you can also start with it. See, AI is an evolving thing, right? Okay, I'll go with back with an example. Some pre-COVID, some 2018, 2019, when we went to customers saying, typically AI will help you do collections better. And I got resistance, significant resistance, right? Saying, look, I have been in industry for, before you were even born, and there's nothing AI that can do. So we piloted with them step by step of how risk segmentation can be done this way. How is your operational efficiency going to increase? How you can reduce your cost? When piloting was done, it was done on champion challenger method. Look, this is the way you're doing. This is the new way of doing it. And obviously the new way, which is the challenger approach, superseded the way they were doing. How did it supersede it? It gave a far better lift into recovery than what they were getting, correct? So it was a phase that they went through till the time they believed. And I think most of the customers would do that, right? So once the industry started evolving, and when they did their piloting for first 6 months, they totally trust the AI outputs now, and that they don't go back to non-AI rule-based approach. So I think customers took enough time to believe, but once they believe, they know, and there is always a check, there is a control they have to see if AI is performing or not performing. But it's a complete winner, and now they don't look back to the older technologies. I hope I have given an answer in an example form, a real example form.
I think so. I think you have, Chetan. And Cecile, any commentary as as a powerhouse financial team, do you support Chetan's position from your perspective?
What Chetan mentioned is right. Although, just to also answer or give my comments on that question, I think just putting the right parameters on every technology will really address major concerns, especially when we talk about volumes and productivity. But of course, if an organization, if an industry is regulated by the government, then definitely that company has to be really in line with the regulation. But just the same, once an understanding of that regulation is there, then I think that's something that we can work out with AI by doing putting the right parameters, the right matrix, the right combinations of parameters that would help address the customers' the customers' needs, plus at the same time maintaining or following or keeping it with the regulation or complying with the regulation.
Thank you, Cecile. Thank you for that. Gidartha, would you like to put your thoughts on it before we move on?
It's just one last point. I think, I mean, compliance was the point which I was actually expecting the business side of the world to address. And I think ma'am said that. See, I think data always remains the key, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when you use some of these models, it is evolving. Again, I don't see that the AI has reached that phase that it can solve every aspect of it. Even I'm sure there will be a lot of things which will be done in the debt collection industry itself. I think many times we struggle to get right data. And whatever the model is built based on certain expectations, right? So that will remain one of the key aspects. And the examples I was talking, and then Chetan also added there, if you have 3 systems, now if I have to implement even AI there, how do you bring the holistic view from a data perspective, just so that we make sense out of the AI at the end of the day, right? So again, my belief is that it will still evolve. And it will evolve in a and hopefully it will evolve in a much faster way, like the buzzword itself today.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Good sort of summary of the points around that. And thank you for the question that was submitted on there. Next, we're moving on to our next poll, the next interactive bit. So get those fingers ready and primed. The next poll that I'm about to launch is, do you think improving the agent experience is the key to improving the customer experience? Looking forward to seeing the answers on this one. So press that button. Let's see what results we get. And this is a straight agree or disagree answer.
And I so want to vote for it, but you have already locked that one from panelists.
Okay. Ooh. Okay, it's open for another 20 seconds so that we can keep these quick and sharp. Okay, we have a clear winner here, which I suspect no one will be surprised about, but 10 seconds more it will be open for, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let's. Right, are we ready? Which side of the coin do you think the audience fell on?
Wow, 100%. Yep.
There you go. So treating your agents well, the audience thinks will lead to more positive outcomes with the customer. I suspect that's a conversation to be had internally. So I'm going to hide those results. And just before we do anything, any thoughts on that panel?
Yeah, just one observation. I think if I go back to the previous poll, when we get the agents on the top, I think the first one, I think the comments were all of the rest of them except that one. I mean, it looks like while we can talk about AI and others, I think we have to make sure that we facilitate or we give enough tools and good experience enough to the agents themselves who are on the ground, because exactly that's how they would be representing the FIs directly when they go to the market or to the field, and their conversation brings the customer experience at the end of the day. It's their behavior. If they question in a harsh way, it actually reflects back, and that's where your dissatisfaction comes in. Or if they are given a right message to be passed, they will do what exactly needs to be. I think it clearly shows where the trend and where the support needs to be given.
Fantastic. Any other thoughts just before we move on?
That refers to human agents, right?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Okay. So, well, to be honest, when I saw that question, I think human agents has the tendency to be emotional. They get tired. They may not be on the right mood at that time. So even if we are treating human agents well, other factors might be involved. So what I'm saying is, it's not really, I think, human agents that we should be putting attention to, because unlike AI, these are emotionless. They will not fight back to the customer or has the tendency to bounce back to the customer. So well, it is definitely it is so right to treat our human agents well. That's good. But at the end of the day, sometimes even if they are doing good, some times may be bad, some days may be bad. So that's just my thoughts on that question, on that one.
Yes, thank you for that, Cecile. Those pesky humans and their emotions. Thank you for that as a point. Moving on to the next one as we come through on that. And again, starting with Cecilia, if I may, are there any tools and techniques that every company should consider to improve their chances of success and achieving early collections?
Yeah, I think important aspects in the collection is to really be able to communicate to the customer, the right customer at the right time, and that quality of that collection activity should be rendered. So in terms of the collection tools or techniques, one would be really automating also the routine based calls or outbound customer engagement calls, so that we can reach to the right customer at the right time. If we're talking of volume, delaying the calls, especially those in the early stages of the collection, might be late if we will not automate our outbound calls. And then definitely we would need a robust and highly effective collection system that will be powered by machine learning or AI and provide that predictive and prescriptive analytics. A highly effective call center solution is also a must that would transform collection calls into valuable data, which can be incorporated later on in that collection system, and unlocking those data from those customer voice calls. What else? Mobile collection system. We really need it because it will allow us to gather information with real-time results and real updating of customer records during field visits. And lastly, as mentioned by Chetan a while ago, not all people, well, of course, borrowers, nobody in debt likes to be called. So I think it will be really, in order to establish a good engagement strategy, we need to put in place an omni-channel customer engagement that will facilitate auto-resolution of accounts. So that omni-channel will be able to allow the clients to monitor their accounts, and at the same time lead to paying their obligations 24/7, depending on their availability. So omni-channel communication and having an AI-based CRM or customer relationship management system, I think those tools are really will be doing well for the companies, for the lending companies.
Thank you, Suzelle. That's very useful information and something that I think a lot of people are exploring and engaging with around those topics. So we're on to our third poll, and this one has 4 answers, which is either a straight yes or no. You have a maybe option, and you have a too early to say option. So let's see where people are on this one. And this poll, we're really looking at, do you think AI-based solutions will be a game changer for the debt collection industry? So please see that. The poll's now open. Please fill that out. Remember, it's either a yes, no, maybe, or too early to say. Okay, the poll is going to be open for another 10 seconds. And this is actually quite an interesting spread of responses. Let's close the poll. Give you a couple of seconds more to say you're coming in. Okay, let's close that poll. Okay, so one answer got 0%, and the 3 others were spread across. Just before I release the poll, which answer panel do you think got 0 response? Got a 0? Right, okay. No commitment there. Right, let's share those results.
Okay, no is the 0. Okay. Yes, maybe too early to say. Okay.
Okay, so whatever your position is, AI is definitely seen as something that is going to either absolutely be a game changer, maybe or too early to say, but nobody believes that it will have 0 impact.
Okay, good. I have a suggestion here for maybe, for the people who have done maybe and too early. I have a suggestion: attempt, do pilot programs, see it for yourself on your data in your organization, and you will shift to the yes part very soon.
Okay. Well, that's something to look at, chaps, and as you move forward. So moving on into the next part, and thank you for that, Chetan.
Yep.
That's really good because it brings me on to you. What, according to you, is the importance really of connecting people, data, and processes in any organization, more to from a debt collection perspective, if I may ask that, Chetan?
Yeah, sure. Look, Brian, any debt collections department's clear job or they're measured on to is to reduce bad loans, keep as minimal as possible. You can have NPAs, and I hope, Mamsel, you agree with me, because that's exactly what you do, correct? As long as the bad loans are in control, we are in a better position. The day it starts exceeding, we have a problem, correct? Now, going back to connecting people, data, I think this is the biggest asset any organization will have. Data is gold, right? If you have data, and when I mean data, data is not only limited to collections data of a person, okay? It is data across the financial service, across the organization. It could be utilizing some data from loan originations when you originated a loan. It could be data from a customer CRM application. It could be data from a core banking system. Or if it's an NBFC, there are other data points that they can gather. Non-banking financial services company is what I'm saying. Data is gold. Now, I have seen organizations who have huge data but not utilized at all. Now, that's a crime, I personally feel. Okay, as long as you have data and people together, and if you really utilize synergies between that, your objective will be surely achieved. Okay, and there will be fine tunings that will consistently happen as you grow. But if you don't utilize that data, and when I say when you have a data and if you don't do artificial intelligence, you're lacking a lot. Okay, so the synergies should be utilized at best. When you utilize these synergies, basically you can make your collections effort pretty more effective. Your NPAs will be less. Now, how can you really do this once you have data and you have AI story in place? I'll give you a small example. Once you use that data and you are using AI, if you can do an intelligent segmentation, and I would categorically say intelligent segmentation, because traditionally you're using rule-based segmentation, and that rule-based is done on a portfolio level and not on an individual level, and that's where the game changes. The individual level will potentially go even a couple of steps further in segmenting whether this customer is high risk customer, low risk customer. Maybe to give an example, a person's track record is very good, and he has a credit card and his wife has a credit card too, okay, on a joint kind of activity. Now, he's never defaulted, but for some reason his wife's credit card is wrongly charged and he is being irritated, and they are making calls to the bank to basically remove that charge, and he's threatened some point in time that either I will close the card or not pay this bill. Now, that's an alarm recorded into a CRM system, not utilized in the collection system, right? That's where when you do utilize multiple data points and when you come with a prediction, normally this guy would have not been alerted. Now, because there is some wrong sentiments been identified, this becomes an alert. At least you will do a proactive attempt to send an SMS, maybe before his due date is coming, or maybe you will at least put him into a log where you will make a soft call to him to remind he needs to pay. Now, that particular risk segmentation would have never been possible into a rule-based activity, and that's where you have to really think smarter. You have to evolve. Okay, these solutions with AI and data marrying. I will give you one more example. There is someone whom you're trying to call and reach out for collections, but he never picks up a call. Sometime he had picked up a call and said, look, this is not a good time to call. Please call me at 4 p.m. Now, I'm connecting to the people part here. Your telecaller is going to make attempts after attempt, but only 4 o'clock works. AI will study, learn. Henceforth, the call allocation will only go at 4 p.m., which means for the full day, if he had made 10 attempts, there is no need to make any more. You know what is his best time to call. And that's where AI is going to give you a prime time recommendation. That is where you will evolve. So, as like I said, using data for people to utilize or focus on right energies. If you marry all these three elements, you are surely going to achieve far better collections, probably reduction into number of resources also, but for sure you're going to reduce the cost of operation. I will go back to one of the customers that comes from Philippines itself, where when we went live, it is a bank with a fairly modernization accepting bank, and they did it somewhere in 2019. They could save their write-offs because of AI to around $77 million. They could do $10 million worth early collections or additional collections than they were able to do in past. While they did all of this, they had a drop of around 30-40% of telecalling to be done, while they got higher lift into collections, because now data, people, processes were married in a proper fashion, yielded into reduction in effort, but clearly increase in output. And that's what any CFO, any head of collections like Ma'am Cell would want to achieve, right? You're making your management is happy because less money and more output. Simple as that. So
Chetan,
I would say, yeah, it's a clear winner.
Chetan, thank you very much for that. Well, we've got our final poll of the day coming up, and this is again an agree or disagree statement, which will be quite interesting to see. Will contact centers benefit from AI tools and solution around the agent's journey? So here we go. Let's see what we get from that. Okay, we'll keep this open for another 20 seconds to give those of you who need the time to input your response. Remember, this is will contact centers benefit from AI tools and solutions around the agent's journey? Okay, here we go. Right, I suspect no one will be shocked by the outcome of this final question. So we have 100% agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Okay, any thoughts on that, panel?
I think it's a mandate now. If you don't use it, you will stay behind. Simple as that. Correct, ma'am. Your forte has been Kaizen, right? So continuous improvement is the only way.
Yeah.
Good.
Great. So moving into the final part of today's presentation, which I hope, like me, you found truly fascinating. Gitartha, can I ask, where do you see this industry 3 to 5 years from now?
Yeah, I think 3 to 5 years is a huge, long, big horizon at the end of the day. But I believe the way the technology is shaping up the industry with multiple things we spoke about. In fact, we heard both the sides right today from from players like us, which has been investing into new technologies, and then users like Ma'am Cecil, how they are utilizing technology to make sure that the business is adopting them, and at the end of the day get value out of it. I believe there would be multiple innovations which will keep on happening as we move forward. But again, from focus perspective, I still believe automation to reduce efforts and improve accuracy would be key. We talked about omni-channel kind of a view. I believe those will come quite handy, and at the same time, the virtual assistants. If somebody calls to the call center, if the call center is not available, and there are times when it's not there, can there be virtual assistants, which is again linked back to AI, which can solve some of those responses or give those responses. At the same time, I think AI will keep building more and more use cases and see how it can help and facilitate not only the business but also the agents at the end of the day. Because the data input is going to the agents, whose life will become much easier when they get right inputs. Structuring debt repayments to customers, which Chetan spoke about, I think it will be not only get implemented, it will get enhanced more and more. And lastly, from a personalized recommendation to the users, right? When is the right time to call? Which is a channel? What kind of tone of communication we should adopt when we reach out to the borrowers? I think all this will be more and more evolved through support, or by supported by various platforms and technologies. And again, AI plays a major role and will actually enhance it further. What do you
Thank you, Gitartha. Very, very much appreciated on those responses. Very insightful. And Mamsel, from your perspective, what should organizations focus on as a priority to stay ahead in the transformation journey and journeys that they're undertaking?
Well, we really need to reimagine our growth strategy, and it's really has to be powered by technology, and this technology should be optimized by combining it with the right leadership. Next is we really need to improve the customer experience by delivering very effective omni-channel communications and the end-to-end solution to our collection strategies, as mentioned, should be powered by AI. So overall, it should really be a customer-centric approach that is powered by machine learning in order to achieve that highly efficient and effective strategy, particularly in collection. And of course, we should never forget about adopting an enterprise fraud management, because technology is really evolving so fast, but alongside with it can be possible fraud activities. So we really need to also be shaped with our fraud and risk innovations and technologies.
Thank you, Mansell. Good commentary. As we sort of are coming up on time on the session, I'm going to ask Chetan if he may to summarize the key takeaways from this session today. But just before we go into that, one final question, which is actually two rolled into one from one of the viewers. Thank you very much for this, Savio. Basically, what he's saying is, what and how should be the approach of AI in MPA collections, and what are the best AI tools that are available from a vendor perspective? Any recommendations? I suspect you will have.
Okay, so which vendor is that they want to approach is what the question is, right?
Well, it's two separate questions actually, Chetan, but they're both, I've tried to combine them too because we've got limited time. The first question that Savi asks is what and how should be the approach of AI in NPA collections, and which AI tools are available to them as a potential buyer to utilize, and any recommendations?
Sure. Well, for the first approach, I would say them take baby steps, do pilot programs, and that will show you results. The second part is, if I can speak to them, write to them, it will be great. We ourselves have one of the leading AI platforms that is helping customers on the collections part. I don't know how to get in touch with this person who's asking this question. If there is a way, I would love to speak to him. It's called Assist Edge Engage AI-powered collections. It's been deployed for banks. It's been deployed in banks, NBFCs, and I'm very happy to tell you, in fact, that this technology has evolved so fast that we are actually helping governments' income tax departments to figure out who will not pay income tax, what is the best way to get money or income tax recovered from the person. So the AI related collections is no more limited only to banks or financial institutions. Governments, large governments, I can't take the name here, but large governments with huge volumes have tried this, tested this initially, and there are data available on internet also about the government I'm talking about. They have increased their collections by whooping 16% in 3 months of operation. So imagine the kind of revenue even governments are able to yield out of this. So yeah, I mean, if there is a way, Brian, we could communicate over email, I'm happy to do that. But like I said, if there is a doubt, start with a pilot program, find it, how it's running for yourself, and then scale it. If you don't scale it at the right time, you're going to burn on your efforts, efficiency, and operating cost for sure.
Thank you, Chetan. Yes, you will be able to connect directly after the event. And just as a reminder to everybody, please reach out via social media and through any of the platforms to Gitartha, Chetan, or Sisip Mansell to follow up. The team from EdgeVerve will be available and following up with the audience. So please, if you've not had an opportunity to ask a question so far, please don't forget to do that when the follow-ups commence. So Chetan, could I ask you to summarize the key takeaways from the session today for the audience?
Sure. So I think my only submission here is that, see, the technology is evolving very fast, and it is evolving for a purpose, and purpose is obviously good, right? I've clearly been mentioning you are able to collect more faster with lesser number of people. So that's anyone's objective. We have done this in Southeast Asia. We have done this kind of programs in Europe and largely in the US also. Large US banks are also our customer. Everyone is succeeded. Okay, I can confidently tell you this. My only submission is if you don't adapt to change, eventually you will not scale. I'll give a small example. Like, you know, a couple of years back, we used to write letters to each other, to your family and friends, right? Now it's gone down to emails and WhatsApps and Viber. It's impossible for you to go back and, you know, write a mail by a post these days. I think it's the same way. We have to evolve. We have to quickly evolve and completely get aligned to the current trends. The rule-based, traditional-based segmentations and those approach are quite, they're gone. Like, I would say they are gone. Earlier the better. We should adapt, try, test into an organization's environment. If you have sizable volumes, earlier you should try, because I think everyone in this room must be reading about how recession is going to hit, how bad days are coming. If you are not keeping your credit in control, we have seen in 2007-8 how bad the AIG meltdown and Lehman Brothers meltdown happened, and how it impacted globally. So if you should be very strongly covered on the credit side and use better technologies to stay more relevant. That's my submission.
Chetan, thank you very much for the summary. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the presentation today. This brings to an end the presentation itself. A couple of things to finalize on. I'd like to thank our esteemed panelists, Mansell, Gitartha and Chetan, for a truly fascinating and insightful presentation. Very much appreciated. And please do not hesitate to reach out to any and all of them. I'm sure they will be in touch with you following the presentation. The on-demand version of this presentation will be available once it's been edited, so please look out for the email that allows you access to this. And finally, thank you so much for joining us. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Hail and farewell.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Chetan, Gitartha.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Gitartha. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, attendees.
Thank you.